Welcome to The Explainer. It's kind of wild, but psychological studies actually show that human beings will literally doubt their own eyesight, like what they are seeing right in front of them, just to agree with a room full of people. That is just how overwhelmingly strong the pull of conformity is in our minds. So today, we're jumping right into an incredibly fascinating and honestly deeply challenging concept from a classic source. We're looking at the ancient, totally countercultural commands found in the book of Exodus, specifically chapter 23. We are going to explore what this text has to say about conformity, the pursuit of everyday justice, and ultimately, how we view our time and our resources. And look, even though these words were written thousands of years ago, you're going to see just how sharply they cut right into our modern everyday lives. It is a really brilliant framework for examining how we can stand firm when literally the rest of the room is moving in another direction. Okay, let's dive into this. The anchor for our entire explainer is Exodus 23, verse 2. It says, "Do not follow the crowd in doing wrong." Now, it sounds incredibly simple, right? Almost obvious. But as the source material points out, it's actually one of the absolute hardest commands to live out. Why? Because one of the most powerful forces in any human community, whether we're talking ancient times or right now, is the pressure to conform. It's like this invisible gravity that just pulls you to go along with what everyone else is doing. It makes you want to subtly soften your convictions the second you sense the mood of the room shifting against you. And this verse, it hits that human tendency right on the head. Now, what's really interesting about this is the stark contrast at play. Group consensus is the easy path, hands down. It's following the crowd, mirroring their opinions, just kind of rounding off the edges of your own beliefs to keep the peace. But the source text calls its readers to a much, much higher loyalty. The text argues that following God actually often means breaking away from that group consensus. It frames standing firm for justice and truth as one of the most concrete, tangible forms of discipleship there is. It's a daily, active choice between what is popular and what is right. So moving into the first major theme here, the external pull and navigating everyday justice. To really get how this plays out, we're looking at the first 9 verses of this passage, which deal heavily with our external interactions. And what's super fascinating here is that this isn't just about massive, life-altering moral dilemmas. No, it is about navigating everyday justice, the normal situations we encounter at work, in our friend groups, or just in our local communities. Everyday justice demands that we pay close attention to those subtle, external pulls that are constantly trying to knock us off our moral center. The text actually outlines exactly what this everyday justice looks like, and I want to rapid fire through these practical commands because they are incredibly punchy. First, don't spread rumors or pass along things you aren't absolutely sure are true. Second, don't just nod along and agree with majority when you know in your gut something just isn't right. Third, don't show favoritism. You don't treat someone better just because people feel bad for them, but you also don't ignore someone just because they lack influence. And finally, if someone needs help, even if they're disliked or you personally don't get along with them, step in. These commands are a massive reminder that true justice is rarely convenient, and honestly, it almost always costs you something socially. And this brilliantly illustrates how we actually end up failing those practical commands. Because conformity doesn't usually happen all at once, right? It creeps in. Step 1 is the subtle compromise. It's laughing along when someone is being put down, or just staying quiet when something's off. Step 2, you start actively following the crowd. Maybe you adopt a negative or cynical attitude toward a leader just because everyone else in the group is doing it. And that leads right into step 3, normalization. Over time, things that absolutely shouldn't feel normal start to feel entirely acceptable. That is the dangerous progression the text warns against. Which brings us to the second half, the internal posture, and recognizing the God who owns everything. This raises a massive question. If we are actively resisting this external pull, if we are flat out refusing to submit to the crowd, then who or what are we actually submitting to? The passage pivots dramatically here from our external actions to our internal posture. To explain this internal posture, the text introduces 2 ancient practices, the giving of first fruits and the observance of the Sabbath. Now, these aren't just archaic rituals. They are profound, super practical acknowledgments of ownership. They remind God's people that their time, their resources, and their very lives don't actually belong to them. They belong entirely to God. Just as everyday justice means recognizing that other people belong to God, true worship means recognizing that your own life belongs to Him too. Let's move to and see how this builds into our actual daily lives. Far too often, we give God the tiny sliver, the leftovers. We give whatever happens to remain at the absolute end of an exhausting day or a crazy week. But the first fruits principle? It flips this completely. It demands the large portion. It asks us to give God the absolute first and best of our attention. It is a powerful reminder that you cannot seriously claim God owns your life if you are only ever tossing him the scraps of your schedule. So, moving into practical application, breaking the pattern. How do we take these huge concepts, resisting the crowd and giving our first fruits, and practically apply them today? Well, we have to look at breaking our established patterns. It's one thing to understand this ancient text intellectually, but it is an entirely different thing to let it actually shape our modern daily rhythms and our upcoming commitments. So, the crucial point is how we view our time. Take an upcoming summer retreat or a big community event, for example. We normally view these things as an interruption to our busy lives, or maybe a performance, where we just have to show up, look a certain way, and push our own agenda. But the source material challenges us to move to a mindset of an offering, a genuine act of worship. We need to show up with open hands, recognizing that making time for God is the absolute foundation of a properly ordered life. I really want to pause right here and bring this directly to you. Where in your life have you been following the crowd rather than following God? Seriously, think about your friend group, your workplace, or even your local community. Have you been staying quiet when you really know you should speak up? Have you been laughing along at things that compromise your core convictions? What would it literally look like for you to actually break from that pattern this very week? Let's push that reflection just a step further. How does seeing your time as a first fruits offering completely change your attitude toward your schedule? Like, if that upcoming retreat or weekend commitment isn't just some annoying block on your calendar, but a conscious, deliberate offering back to the Creator who owns your time to begin with, how does that change the way you pack your bags? How does that completely change the posture of your heart when you actually arrive? It all comes back to this one central takeaway. Don't follow the crowd, follow God. It takes immense everyday courage to stand for justice when the whole room is moving the other way, and it takes profound humility to live with open hands. So I'm going to leave you with this thought. If you truly believe the Creator owns your time and your convictions, what is the very first thing on your calendar tomorrow that needs to change?